local planning panel. My name is Michael Manty. I'm the chairperson of today's meeting. The other members of the panel for today's meeting are Heather Wharton, Scott Barwick and Tony Neal. Can I start by acknowledging the Gundungurra and Tharal people as the traditional custodians of this land we now call the Wingecarribee local government area. I pay my respects to elders both past, present and emerging. I'd also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders listening in to today's meeting. This meeting is being held by Zoom due to the current health orders. A couple of housekeeping matters before I get into the formalities. Can I ask that everybody set their microphones to mute until you're invited to speak? And can I also say that this meeting is also being recorded and webcast via Council's website. Our role as the local planning panel is to determine the development application that is on today's agenda by either approval or refusal, having regard to the Council Officer's report, the documents submitted with the development application together with the panel members' own expertise and experience. In exceptional circumstances, the panel may decide to defer determination of the development application to allow submission of additional information. The meeting will be in two parts. First part, which we are in now, will be a public part of the meeting. And after the speakers, if there are any speakers for the items have concluded and any questions have been asked and answered, the panel will then adjourn in private to formulate our decision and prepare our minutes. The minutes of the panel's meeting and decision will be available on the Council's website within 2 days of the meeting. The procedures that will be followed for the meeting are that if the applicant is the applicant for the item is attending the meeting, and I'll call for the applicant shortly. If you're in attendance, I'll ask you to describe the proposal in brief, and the panel members may ask you questions. There are no objectors to today's item, so there'll be no necessity for objectors to present to the panel. Before I call the first item, I need to ask panel members whether they need to declare any conflicts of interest.
Michael, not from me.
Nothing from Tony Neal.
Scott Barwick, no conflict from me,
No
Mr.
conflict.
Chairman.
Nothing from Heather Wharton. Okay, the one and only item on today's agenda is development application 21/0583 for subdivision of land carrying out of works to create 2 lots at 21 Ascot Road, Bowral. The Council Officer's recommendation is for approval subject to conditions. I am told by the Council Officers that the applicant is now aware that today's meeting is taking place, and has been given a link to the video conference that we're in now. Can I ask whether the applicant is online? The applicant for that DA.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Michael Baker.
Yes. Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fine.
Okay, Michael. Thanks for attending. I don't know how much of that introduction you caught that I gave.
I didn't catch any, actually. I
didn't catch any of it?
I only heard from the last about 5, 6, 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
I just walked in that
Righto.
they're going to have the meeting. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry that you
Yep.
had late notice of the meeting.
That's okay.
But in summary, our role as the panel is to determine this development application by either approval refusal, or deferral, we'll take into account the council officer's recommendation, which is for approval subject to conditions, the documents that you've submitted with the development application, as well as our own expertise. We've been provided with the council officer's report, and I assume you have as well. You've been provided with the council officer's assessment report that's on the agenda today?
No, I haven't. I haven't. No. But anyway,
Okay.
he did. I phoned him and he spoke to me yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and I'm aware of the situation, as he said, why it's why the planning committee are looking at not approving. Yeah, at this stage.
Well, there hasn't been a decision made yet, but I'll let the recommendation is for approval, subject to conditions, as I've said.
Yeah.
But some of the panel members will have questions for you.
Okay.
And I'll let those questions follow the course. If you can answer them as best you can, then we will adjourn in private to discuss our resolution and decision, if you like. So I might just open it up to panel members now, whoever wants to go first, if they've got questions of you.
Yep. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Who wants to go first, panel members? Anyone?
I will, Mr. Chair.
Scott will. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Baker.
Michael, it is, yeah.
Michael, Scott. Obviously, I think it's been communicated to you from the council officer about the necessity for a clause 4.6 variation request to the minimum lot size for the dual occupancy provision of 600 square metres for one of the lots.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It has.
I think it was in some of the correspondence from council, but there's quite a specific set of tests, if you like, set out in the clause where essentially a 4.6 variation request needs to set out why it's unreasonable, unnecessary, the circumstance for a standard not to be met and what the environmental planning assessment grounds are. And it's usually good practice while it's up to the consent authority to determine. The assessing officer is often assisted with also an assessment or a submission on how, despite the non-compliance, the proposal is consistent with the objectives of the standard and the zone within which it's located.
Yep.
Would that be something that you would be willing to have engaged to be provided to council? Because at the moment, we have a concern that there's a precondition that would preclude us from determining the application today. But if we were provided with a suitable clause 4.6 variation request addressing those matters, that precondition would be addressed and we'd be able potentially be able to move forward considering the merits of the application.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Is that something that you'd be willing to investigate if that was a course that the panel took?
I'd be willing to do it. You undoubtedly got all the history of it, but the history, I suppose, is a little bit irrelevant when it gets down to the one point now. It originally went to many, many years ago. I'd forgotten how many, probably 19 years ago, 18 years ago, a long time ago. And to when we built the house, the house in question, at that time, we owned the house in front of the block of land, and it was built with facing Gordon Street, the street with that, and had all its own services, everything and so forth. And the only thing that it didn't meet with was the size of the lot. The health inspector at the time, the building inspector at Borough Council, Graham Hewitt, I think his name was, actually approached me and said that he thought that it might be worthwhile putting an application to full council, have to go there, to have the site freehold, because if it helped me, because it actually complied with everything that was going up in the variation of the plan from council, which was going to go on display and probably take about a year. And so it went on. Absolutely no hurry. So part of the conditions were back then that, first of all, the development had to be finished. The house, well, it was going to be finished anyway, had all its own services and everything that's mentioned. It complied in all ways, with exception apparently on the size of the block. So we were intended to keep the house, which we've still got, and so I decided that no, that's fine. There wasn't any hurry, and it did go on. Actually, the plan went on for quite a long time, as you'd probably be aware, for quite many years, because it was to do with the state as well as the local council. And eventually it came back. And but in the meantime, I decided we wanted to sell the house. It was about 6 or 7 years out. The house in front, so I strata titled it. That was the reason. And we went from there. The council had quite an extensive file on it. But when the plan was finally approved, then I spoke to council and they said, well, they'd support an application. It went in to freehold the title, and together with the owner from the now owner from the people on Ascot Road on the other property, that's the reason. So we went ahead with the to get freehold title to it. That's sort of the background. And but no, if it's necessary for council, and I'm more than happy to do whatever's necessary. I would like to get a little bit of a format from, I guess, council or from Mr. Wong as to what would be necessary for it to go through. I'm sure it's the same intention, but just, I suppose, something, not draft, but something for me to include, if that's possible.
Well,
Heather, I think Heather's, you're on mute, Heather.
Pardon? Oh, sorry.
I've done it. Not a good start. Hi, this is Heather Wharton. Could I suggest that maybe you talk to your surveyor to see if they have a town planner that they work with? Because it probably would be, I think it's something that you need to get someone professional to prepare for you, because it has to be quite precisely drafted. Maybe that's just a suggestion. Obviously talk to the council officers, but possibly you talk to your surveyor to see if they have a town planner that they might work with, that might help you be able to draft it. Because they have to give strategic reasons as well as the technical reasons for why it's going to be acceptable.
Is the reason it's not acceptable wholly because it's on the site smaller than? Is that the reason? Is that the only reason?
The technical issue is that it doesn't comply with the numerical control, and in order to grant a consent that doesn't comply with the numerical development standard, a successful clause 4.6 has to be prepared and accepted by the consent authority. And as I said, the particular clause of the LEP, there's been a lot of case law around it about what's required to be a satisfactory clause 4.6. And as I said, it's got to set out the reasons why in the circumstances of the case it's unnecessary and unreasonable, what are the environmental planning assessment grounds to justify the non-compliance, and how, despite the numerical non-compliance, the proposal remains not in conflict with the zone objectives of the R3 land use zone in this instance, and the zone objective of the clause 4.F, I think it is, 4.4F. So that's your barrier at the moment, and unless that barrier that is breached by a well-reasoned, well-presented 4.6, we aren't in a position to go any further. And hence had the suggestion of, in the first instance, you've had a surveyor prepare the survey plan, and they may work with professionals who prepare those types of submissions, and they might be able to recommend someone for you.
All right. I'm just not quite 100% sure if the surveyors would be still in Barrel, but I suppose they would be. But it was a long time ago was the plan. But I could do that, and so it would affect to see if they have which they would have a town planner contact, and then I assume that Roland Wong would know exactly then what's going to be required as far as the technical side of it's concerned with them.
Yeah,
Well,
we can help you. Speaking, I'm the manager for development assessment at council. Roland's in my team, and he can help you. I can help you as well.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly, in terms of any additional guidance that you might need, we're more than happy to help. But
Right.
it does have, I think, what Scott's going to,
Yeah.
that it does need to be written by a qualified professional planning
Yeah.
consultant.
Understand.
Because it's meant to be an independent consideration of the whole of 4.6 and be a kind of an extensive consideration of that clause.
Okay.
That's what's needed. Yeah. So, but there are examples that we can help you with.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Okay. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll confer with the other person, the other applicants, the other people, and probably we're in jointly. We've got it in.
Because from my point of view, Michael, is like, we think, the application's obviously been there for a little while, and if there's the opportunity that you and your co-applicants could provide that information to us, there may be the opportunity for the panel to consider that separately and be able to make a determination of the application rather than where we are today. We don't have the opportunity to move forward.
No, okay, no, I understand that. That's the case. So that's the way we'll have to pursue it. So I will have a talk to the other party to see the property at the moment, strata titled. I don't know whether it's going to make that much of a difference to overall. As far as we were concerned, it's tidier if it was a freehold title. We've never had a body corporate meeting, actually. We've never had to. Places are individually insured and all that. So, but I can understand the situation that you're in. And so I'll have a talk to them and just to see, and your offer of help is appreciated, and we can sort of go from there. Would I be able to contact you for help via the council or via who? If we need someone to give us a little bit of a hand.
Yeah, sure. If you call council and ask for me, my name's Nancy Sample. I can help you. So, and Roland's, as I said, Roland's in my team. I'm mindful of the fact that Roland is the assessing officer and must be relatively independent in this process.
Right.
To make sure that we're meeting legislative requirements. Michael's smiling at me. But I'm an independent party, being the manager for that team and representing council on the planning side. And I'm happy to give you some help.
All right. No, that's certainly appreciated. Well, I will, and I'll speak to the people. I'll talk to the surveyor. I'm assuming they're still there, or there would be the firm there. But I'll be able to, in some form or way, we'll go down the path that's situated that you've recommended, and hopefully, I can produce what is going to be necessary to have it approved.
Any competent town planning consultant should be able to assist you. So if the surveyors aren't in Barrel, or they don't know any planning consultants, then really any competent town planning consultant would know what a clause 4.6 variation request looks like.
Well, it's a 4.6 variation
request.
I know one in Sydney, actually. Could they do it?
They could do it. Yep, they could do it. And can I just put a qualification on the assistance that you're looking for from council, the council officers? The council officers can't write the request for you.
No, I understand that. Because it'll be over the phone.
It wouldn't be appropriate for them to write something that they then have to assess as being
no. It was
No,
more
I-
just along the lines of help with the
What-
legislation
yeah,
and
what the
any
requirements are.
examples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
just
not
the
anything we
requirements
would-
are.
no,
No, certainly. I
definitely
can
not.
fully understand
So,
that. And,
Yeah. So, but a competent town planner will know what to include in this statement.
And it's really gets down to it's a 4.6 variation.
Variation
Yeah.
request in the
Request.
proper form
Yeah.
and substance.
Okay. All right. Righto, that'll be fine. Okay. Well, thanks anyway,
Okay.
and we'll take it from there, and I'll be probably in touch with Roland, and I'll continue in that way, and we'll see what we can produce. Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Thanks for attending at short notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
No way, but just so lucky I was here. I just walked in. Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Many thanks for that. Thank
Right.
you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, that being the one and only speaker for item 1, I'll now close the public part of this meeting. The panel will now adjourn in private to discuss our findings, and our resolution will be published on the council's website within 2 working days.